You are listening to the Million Dollar Coach Business Podcast with Amanda Karlstad, episode number 227. Welcome to the Million Dollar Coach Business Podcast, a show for coaches who are ready to up-level their business and take their impact, leadership, and results to $1 million level and beyond. If you're ready to break through your limitations and start taking powerful action and become the seven-figure version of you that your business needs in order to grow, scale, and thrive, this show is for you. I'm your host, Amanda Karlstad, master coach, high-level business mentor and advisor, master intuitive, and business growth and scaling expert. Let's get down to business. Hello and welcome, everyone. So excited to have you here. Today, we are diving into part 2 of the Identity Mastery series. I released the first episode last week, and that was a really powerful episode. I hope that you listened. And I talked about and gave you some real tangible resources and things to really look at in your journey of where you're at in terms of growing and building your business, where I talked about the characteristics and the skills and what's really required to build a seven-figure business. And we're going to continue the conversation today around what is actually needed in terms of the identity shifts, in terms of the characteristics, the skill development that is needed in this journey when you go to seven figures and beyond. And so I'm really passionate about this conversation and bringing it to all of you to really go deep into these characteristics and the skills. And quite frankly, the things that are the things that matter when you're building a seven-figure business. And the reason that I think this is such an important conversation is because as humans, we are wired to want instant gratification. And in a lot of ways, if we're being honest, we expect instant gratification. And I would say for many, it's something that we seek. It's something that when we don't quote unquote get it, what tends to start happening is that it's very easy, especially when we're talking about business, that you start to doubt or you start to allow different fears to kind of seep in. And you might even start to question certain things. You might lose your confidence. And a lot of times what I see happen is the question or kind of the thought that's there is things should be happening faster, or I think I should be farther along than I am. And I will tell you all, I want you to know, I do speak from experience here. I have definitely fallen into this at different times throughout my journey, where I have had an idea or an expectation of a certain result or maybe results, or maybe it was something new, something that I created within the business. And for whatever reason, when I rolled that out or when I implemented that, things didn't go exactly to plan. And what happens is in those moments, it's very easy to start to beat yourself up, to start to entertain the doubt and the fear. And for me, how I have worked through these things is by what I'm bringing to you in this series, is by really looking at where have I fallen out of my own personal power? Where am I practicing, without maybe even knowing it, limited thinking? Where might I be accepting certain ideas that are appearing like certain things are out of my control, for example? And so these are all things that tend to come up that you will experience at different points along the way. And so what we're talking about here are really the ways of being, the ways that I have found to approach these things, where I have intentionally cultivated and really brought myself back to during the times where I've needed to. And when I observe my most successful clients and I look at the inner work that we do, it really does center around so much of what we're talking about in this series. So I want to really encourage you to lean into this conversation and re-listen to it if you need to. My intention is that this series is a resource for you that you can continue to go back to when you feel like maybe you're waffling, or maybe where you're feeling off for whatever reason, or even when things are not moving as fast as you would like them to be in your business. And to really look at where you might not be fully showing up in these areas, or demonstrating what we're about to talk about in your business, or where you have opportunities for growth. Okay, so what is so important to understand is when you are in this journey of growing a business for the long game, which I think is a prerequisite to the journey. And I've talked a lot about this and about the importance of being in this for the long game and thinking from the long game. And a lot of times, again, we want to just jump to the result. We want to just jump immediately to that end result, and we want it to be as easy as possible. And what I will say is that all of this is totally normal. It's how we're wired. And also, it's important to really look at our ways of being around the characteristics that we're about to talk about, that I have worked on for myself, that when I look back on my journey and my business growth journey are the things that I've been required to learn, to strengthen, and that I continue to strengthen and cultivate. So let's dive into these characteristics. The vital skills that I have found that you must be willing to learn and that you must be willing to cultivate if you have a goal to grow to 7 figures and beyond in your business. The next skill that I would say is your self-leadership. Now, I want to be clear in how I define self-leadership. And so when I was thinking about this and I was considering how I define self-leadership, I decided to just look up the definition of self-leadership. And what actually surprised me was that there were a lot of definitions of it, many, many different definitions of self-leadership. And I found myself actually resonating with a lot of the definitions that I found. I thought that a lot of them were actually very relevant, which quite honestly doesn't happen that often. But as I was thinking about this, and when I think about what it means to demonstrate self-leadership in the context of business, it's the practice of leading oneself from that highest version of self, where you're making decisions, where you're operating from, where you're taking full responsibility, where you're choosing with intention, where you are owning the fact that every result that you have, or maybe you don't have, regardless of circumstances, that you understand and own the fact that you have responsibility. And just to be clear, I'm talking, again, in the context of business. This does absolutely apply to your personal life as well. And it's something that I believe we all get to do. And I think it's a really important perspective and lens to use for so much in life, for so much in business, that I really want to encourage you to consider. Because I think a lot of times, and if we're honest, the easy thing is to abdicate our responsibility. The easy thing is to blame. And what I have found is that it is much more disciplined. It is much more powerful when you actually assume responsibility for every result that you have. And I also want to say here that it's not some heavy burden that we have to carry. And again, I'm talking about the results we have in our businesses and in our personal lives. What I'm not talking about here are things that maybe have happened to us in our lives, unfortunate things where maybe somebody else chose to do certain things. Maybe we experienced some traumatic things, or we had traumatic upbringing, things of that nature. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about are the things related to business, to life, where we do have choice, where we do have agency in our decisions. And I want to encourage you that this isn't, again, a heavy burden that we have to carry. In fact, being in a place where you have the awareness level to know that you do, in fact, create your results, and knowing that there's always choice, and to the degree you're making choices and working from a self-led place, I have found this to be one of the secrets to my success. And there are so many examples that I could give you where this is relevant in business. And so I would just ask you right now, when you consider the results that you have, where you aren't experiencing the result that you truly want in your business, and maybe you look a little deeper in that. Maybe you realize that you're accepting a story, or maybe you're telling yourself that it's not possible for you, or maybe you are believing that you don't have what it takes, or that what you want just isn't possible. And I share this because I see this as a really common story that I see a lot of coaches accept, where you doubt what is truly possible for you, where a lot of times on an unconscious level, you accept that story, where I want to say that for all of us, on an unconscious level is what is actually guiding our thoughts. It's what is guiding our decisions, our actions. And so even just through that unconscious acceptance, even a lot of times through the entertainment of that doubt, what happens is we have then corresponding thoughts that also start to build, that we also start to entertain, and we start to then see evidence and in some cases engage in conversations where the overarching topic is about how it's not possible. And so in that place, it's very common to start to see that more and more evidence of it not being possible. And it's actually building that belief even stronger and strengthening that belief, where instead, when you operate from a place where you are choosing to be in a place that is self-led, where you are choosing to engage in conversations that are about taking responsibility, where instead you are choosing to be the one that shows up in possibility, that is choosing to see the evidence of where it is happening, where it is possible, that is more concerned with asking yourself or being questioned and being open to those higher quality questions. It's making a choice to believe, even when the evidence might be contrary. It's not about giving away your personal power to external circumstances. And this, my friends, is something I've experienced and I've observed, and it's so important to cultivate this. So self-leadership and exercising your choice to show up from a place of true self-leadership is so vitally important. All right. The next skill that is essential to growing your business to 7 figures and beyond is something that is way more tactical. And that is your ability, your skill in marketing your business well, and your ability to market your business in a way that truly attracts the right clients to you. And I feel like I could do an entire episode, an entire series on each of these characteristics and skills. And I've talked a lot about some of these things in earlier podcasts. But right now, I want you to just consider for a moment. I would guarantee that for each and every one of you listening right now in this moment, and you are probably aware of this, you are aware that you are leaving money on the table. And I say this from a place of being real with all of you. Because the fact is that unless you have a very dialed in and consistent marketing machine that is working in your business, that you have implemented, that you have worked to optimize, that has been in place for some time, unless you have a marketing system that is consistently generating sales for your program or programs on a consistent basis, unless you have a solid recurring revenue happening in your business, which I'm going to talk more and more about this in future episodes, the importance of that. Unless you can predictably and reliably know that you are generating X amount of sales, that X amount of cash is coming into your business on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis, my friends, there is work to be done. And I will tell you, even at that point, what will happen is that there are different levels of work that then gets to be done to increase that. But at a minimum, if you do not know where your next clients are coming from, if you do not have that predictable and reliable marketing system, that process for them to come into your program, then there is either a major skill gap or an implementation gap. And to be honest, it's probably a combination of the two. Because for every 7-figure, 8-figure coaching business that exists, there is some sort of predictable and reliable marketing system that is working in the business, that is dialed in, where clients are either directly enrolling or booking in sales calls. And it's happening with a very high degree of predictability and reliability on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And I will tell you, the more that I see this, the more that I will say this is a prerequisite to a 7-figure business. And here's what else I know. For most of you listening, I know that you decided to become a coach because you truly care. You care about people. You care about helping others. And I also know that you're a coach because you also see what is possible. You see what is possible in this industry. And I also know that for most coaches, the reality is that you probably don't have a background in marketing. You probably haven't started a business in the past. This is probably your first introduction to entrepreneurship. And with that, it's also very normal to not know exactly what to do. It's very normal to not know what next steps to take, how to create a real marketing system, how to implement this into your business, how to optimize this once it's in your business. And I think about this quite often because for me personally, I have run startups and led startups and grown startups and scaled startups my entire career. I have worked in marketing, in sales, in high-level leadership my entire career. I hold an MBA. My undergraduate degree is in marketing and communications. I am a master coach. So for me, I get this game, and still, I will tell you all, I am continually learning new things all the time. I am applying new things in real time. I am passing on the latest and greatest, the most cutting edge strategies to my clients. And it's what I have found is required, that you must approach your marketing, your sales, how you are getting your story, your message out to your most ideal clients as a priority in your business, as a daily priority. And it's only when you do that, it's only when you frankly do the real work of laying the proper foundation in your business, which I will tell you is the hard work. The easier way is to throw spaghetti at the wall. The easier thing is to constantly be in the pursuit of that silver bullet, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, to be chasing shiny objects. The real work is building a proper foundation that can actually hold the growth that you desire, where you have the foundation that can truly hold the growth that you desire. All right. I have a lot more to say when it comes to the importance of building and establishing an effective marketing and sales strategy in your business. But for now, I want you to really consider on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being 100% solid, how solid are you right now? Where you have a real consistent marketing strategy working in your business, where if right now you don't have the results you want yet in your business, I can say with certainty that one of the reasons is because of this, is because that foundation isn't there. All right. The next skill is training yourself and cultivating what I alluded to earlier to really be in a place where you are continually thinking long-term. One of the perspectives that has really helped me in my journey tremendously has been in my ability and has been putting my attention consciously towards what I call the long game. My business, my vision, not just the short term, but also more importantly, the long term. And what that has done for me and for my business has been to experience very steady, very solid growth year after year in a way that is also very sustainable, in a way where, because I have focused on the long game, where I really have a clear vision of where I'm going, where my business is going, where my programs and my clients are going, it has allowed me in moments, again, where there might be a challenge, where maybe something didn't go as planned, to step aside from that and really make a clear assessment about why something did or didn't work, to not fall into a state of despair or defeat, to be able to clearly look at data and to see it as that, to not take things so personal, to be able to adjust so much more quickly where I've needed to. It has kept me, quite honestly, in a much more peak state of operation within my business versus when you're in a place where you're not clear, where you don't know where you're going, or maybe you're in a position where maybe you're experiencing a dip in your business. It's very easy to allow your emotions to get the best of you, to be in control. And what happens is from there, you start to make decisions and you start to take action from a highly emotional place. versus operating and making decisions and taking actions from a very steady, solid, grounded place where you can actually be in that peak state, where you can actually weather the storm, so to speak. So I see this a lot with coaches, especially who don't have that solid marketing strategy in place, like we just talked about, that tend to fall into very short-term thinking. And it's really coming from a place to make money quickly, or from a place, in some cases, of panic or desperation or some level of despair or disbelief. And what will happen is the result of that is that a new offer a lot of times is created. A new offer is then sold where, again, the idea, the intention might be to make that quick cash. But what happens is that this becomes a very hard cycle to get out of. It becomes a very vicious cycle where all of a sudden, unknowingly and unintentionally, you might have created several different types of offers. You've just completely complicated your business. And it's actually made it so much harder for your marketing and sales to be so much more effective. And it has you living in and showing up in a place in your business from a much more dysregulated, and I would even say frantic place. And so what I see happen all the time is that although it might seem on the surface that this is the right move, right? Because you might have made some sales. The flip side of that is that you also haven't solved how do you actually make sales over the long term? How do you make sales with that predictability, with that repeatability in the business? Which then what will happen is it typically lands the coach again in that same spot at the beginning of the following month. One of the hardest places I believe you can be in your business is when you are starting every month from zero. And I know a lot of you listening might be able to relate to that, where you might be there right now because you can relate to either what I just described and you realize that, yeah, I've been focused on the short term and I've been focused on just creating cash rather than building a real system, where I've been not focused on building that one transformational offer for my clients, where I haven't learned the skill to sell that transformational offer over and over again. Or you might be in a place where you're just in an earlier phase of business and you're really building that momentum. Either way, one of the best perspectives I believe you can approach your business with is, how do I create this from a place of the long game? How do I create this from a place where this is a real asset in my business, where I can really master this, where whether that's delivering your coaching program, whether that's your marketing, whether that's growing your skill in sales, the truth is that to get to 7 figures and to sustain 7-figure growth, you cannot reach that. You cannot sustain that without prioritizing the long game. So what I would ask you right now is, where are you focused on what's right in front of you? Where right now are you choosing only the short term? Where right now are you approaching the business purely from an emotional perspective? That will tell you where you have an opportunity. All right. The next skill, the next characteristics that is required and will be required for the long game is becoming a master at your craft. Now, one of the considerations that I have thought about and that I think has been one of the most important considerations for me personally has been, what do I really want to be known for? What is the highest version of my work, of my calling, that leverages all of my strengths, where I am operating as the highest version of me? And I have done a lot of thought and a lot of work around that and have been very conscious about what that is. And so it's so interesting because today I know without a doubt, because of the work that I have personally done, because of the student that I have been and that I continue to be, because of the work that I have done on myself, I am very clear on what that is. I'm very clear that my calling is to help others build and grow $1 million and beyond businesses. And I am so solid on the level of expertise that I bring. I'm so confident in my ability. I'm so solid in my experience that I have really taken on and continue to take on becoming more and more of a master of my craft. And I will say that there are seasons of this where for me, where I have focused on my coaching, where I have intentionally focused on becoming an even more powerful coach for my clients, where there have also been times where I've been focused on the integration of that, where I've been focused on the embodiment of that, where it's not really about learning anything new, but it's about the application. It's about the integration. It's about the embodiment. And so I would just offer to you that there are seasons to this where I think you, in some seasons, may be more heavily focused on the strategic aspects of the business. And for me, I have just been really conscious of that. I've been very present to that and also very present to my clients. And so there is an ebb and a flow to this, and it does look different at different times. But what I will say is that it is always very intentional to serve my clients at the highest level, to serve my mission, to serve my vision, to serve my work and my calling. And I'm also completely open and so aware that this never goes away. And I just believe that this pursuit of being masterful is a very worthy pursuit. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not everything, but for me and for the clients that I work with, it's very important. So whether that looks like leaning into a certain modality or a certain approach, or layering on maybe even additional training, whatever that might be, I will tell you, for me and for the most successful coaches that I know in this industry, there is real intention behind it. There is real intention to serve clients at an even deeper level. It's really about helping clients achieve even better results. So pursuing greatness in your field of expertise as a coach is so important, and it's a lifelong pursuit. And there will be times where you might not be as focused on it. There will be times where you put more intention, more time, more energy around this. And I think it's just important to be able to discern when that makes sense. And so I talked about this a little while back in one of my podcast episodes, but I look at my evolution as a coach and I look at my decision to become a master coach very much in this way. One of the conscious decisions that I made very early on was that I would become a master coach. But I also, along with that, was very conscious that the timing of that wasn't going to happen right away. For me, I was very conscious and very intentional that when I chose to bring that experience into my growth, my journey, not to say that there's only one way, but for me, I wanted to master other areas of the business first. I wanted to master other areas of my coaching first. I wanted to have the experience and coach as many as I could leading up until that. And I think that really added to my experience when I decided to become a master coach. And I think that that is earned and it takes time. And to me, it is about the number of reps that you take. It is about being in it. It is about gaining the experience and always prioritizing growth and evolution from a place of service. All right. The next skill that I think goes right along with what we just talked about in building and growing your business is your business acumen. And it's building it, growing it to a level that is congruent with your goals. And I think that's really important. And so what I mean by this is that I see far too many coaches who right now are feeling stuck, who feel like they've hit a plateau, who might be spinning their wheels, who are in a place where they're being very reactive, who are feeling burnt out in their business, who are jumping from what I talked about earlier, that one shiny object to the next, who are looking for that silver bullet, so to speak, who think there is this one thing or this one secret. And when they find it, their business will magically arrive at seven figures. And what I will tell you is that there are no shortcuts, meaning there is not a silver bullet. There is not a shiny object or a tactic that will take your business to seven figures. What will and does take your business to seven figures is the leadership that you demonstrate consistently over time, is growing your business acumen, is doing the things that we are talking about in this series. It is about becoming the leader that your business needs you to be. That is what will take you to seven figures. So I will say here that there are far too many shiny objects out there that it's very easy to become distracted with. There are thousands of tactics that right now you are being bombarded with. There is an illusion many times of that elusive silver bullet that will magically change the business. These are all things, my friends, that will keep you spinning. And so what I want to encourage you to consider is that when you put yourself in an environment of true growth, when you are called to step into a higher level of your own self-leadership, where you are doing the boring but vital work of building out and implementing a real marketing system in your business, when you're applying long-term thinking more often than not, where you're continually sharpening your saw and you're helping your clients get better and better results, where through that process, you become the business owner that is capable of leading and creating that level of growth, that is when the 7 figures become inevitable. So I would invite you, again, re-listen to this episode if needed. This is an extremely powerful series that you just listened to. I know that this can and will change the game for you if you choose to become and to implement the things we talked about here. And if you're truly ready to do that, I want to invite you to take that next step, apply to work with us inside of my mastermind programs. This is the level of conversation that we have. This is the level of work that we do. This is why such accelerated growth happens. This is the type of leadership that is cultivated inside of my world, and I would love to have you join. All right, my friends, it is time to make this year a breakthrough year. Let's go. I'll talk to you all again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the $1 Million Coach Business Podcast. If you're ready to step into the $1 million version of yourself and scale your business to 6, multi-6, or 7 figures and beyond, go to amandakarlstadcoaching.com.